Hello everyone, my name is Devendra Gaonkar, Assistant Professor Political Science from Government College of Arts, Science, Commerce, Sakre, Goa. Today I am going to cover the unit number 2, Planning and Administration. In that, I will discuss the types of planning, the centralized and decentralized planning. Moving to the next slide. The outline for the study will be the meaning of centralized planning, features of centralized planning, merits and demerits of the centralized planning. Moving to the next slide. The learning outcomes. At the end of the session, you will be able to understand the concept of centralized planning, features of centralized planning, and you will able to differentiate between the merits and demerits of centralized planning. So moving to the next slide, first we will discuss what is planning. So going for the centralized and decentralized planning, first we should know the meaning of the planning. What does planning? So basically planning is a plan which is done before doing or taking any action. For achieving any goal, any institution, it might be a private institution or it may be a public institution, they need a planning to achieve their particular desired institutional or a management goal. So in this, the planning may be centralized or decentralized. As you all might be knowing that there are various aspects or there are various points through which we can explain any kind of things. So this centralized and decentralized planning is divided or has a division on its viewpoints of execution of plan. So based on the execution of the plan, this planning has been divided into the centralized planning and the decentralized planning. Moving to the next slide. Meaning of centralized planning. So in this slide we are going to cover the meaning of the centralized planning. The centralized planning is the entire planning process in a country is under. In centralized planning, the entire planning process in a country is under central planning authority. Basically, in centralized planning, the entire planning of the country is done by the central authority or the central planning authority. This authority formulates a central plan, fixes objectives, targets and priorities for every sector of the economy. It takes all decisions in accordance with the goals and targets of the plan. And it also has the authority to control over all the aspects of the economy. Basically, in these all points, we can relate that one institution, the head of that particular institution, or you can say the central authority, it takes the entire decision for the entire institution or the entire masses. Next, it enjoys the powers to decide what and how much is to be produced. So basically, this institution or basically in centralized planning, it decides what and how much it has to be produced, how it has to be produced, then when it has to be produced, and where it is to be produced, and to whom it is to be allotted exclusively. So whom it has to be allocated, everything is seen by the central authority. So it fixes prices of all products and wages of all types of workers. So this particular centralized planning is fixing all kinds of wages as well as the taxes of the various products, and it is implemented. This particular centralized planning is a rigid planning. Why it is called as rigid planning, we'll see in the next slide. So moving to the next slide. So you can see here a chart, basically a kind of a diagram where it has mentioned centralized planning. Under that there is a center, then state, urban or a town, and then a rural or a village. So in the left side of the screen you can see where I have mentioned one arrow has been marked to the center. It has mentioned applicable, delegating or delegation of authority, where under that it has mentioned the not applicable. Then policy formation, not applicable. Decision making, not applicable. This not applicable is everything is mentioned to the state, urban and the village. Where in centralized planning, the center takes the entire decision for this state, urban and the rural or the village level government, and whatever the decision has been taken by the central government or the centralized planning authority has to be followed by all these lower institutions. So moving to the next slide. So features of centralized planning. What are the features of centralized planning? So the government creates a central economic plan. The 5-year plan sets economic and societal goals for every sector and region of the country. Short-term plans convert the goal into actionable objectives. Basically, in the first feature, the centralized planning authority forms the economic plan for the entire country. As you can say, the budget. The budget is prepared by the central government, which is implemented for the entire nation. As we know that we have the state budget also, but the main budget is the central budget, which is introduced by the Finance Minister of India, and it is implemented the entire Indian territory. Then government allocates all resources according to the central plan, and it tries to use the nation's capital, labor and natural resources in the most efficient way possible. So here, whatever the central planning authority has come up with a plan, they will try to allocate that particular resources in the various perspective where they can use it in a best, or you can say that it can be used in an optimum use, or it can be used in a efficient way. Moving to the next slide. The central plan set the priorities for the production of all goods and service, that includes quotas and price control. Its goal is to supply enough food, housing and other basic to meet the needs of everyone in the society, or you can say that in the country. So basically here the central planning authority comes up with a plan, and it's trying to provide all those basic necessities, like you have seen that Government of India or have come up with the various schemes for providing the housing, like the various policies like Indira Awas Yojana, Pradhan Mantri Yojana. All these yojanas are for the fulfillment of the basic needs of the people or the citizens of the country. The government owns monopoly business. As you have seen that government has certain areas where it has a monopoly, like defense, railways, research and space. All these areas where the government, or you can say that the central planning authority has a monopoly. So the government creates laws, regulations and the directives to enforce the central plans. Businesses follows the plans production and hiring targets. They can't respond on their own to make free market forces. So basically government is creating the rules and regulations to carry out the business activity, and as per the rules and regulations which are enforced, or you can say as per the as implemented by the central planning authority, it has to be done as per the mentioned norms. So moving to the next slide, here in this we will discuss about the merits of centralized planning. So first merit is that a clear chain of command. A clear chain of command in centralized planning, where a central authority will command an institution and that particular institution has to work according to that command. The second merit is that focused vision. When you have a centralized, when you have a one authority, at that time you can focus on that particular one vision or that one objective. Then the reduced cost. So once you have a centralized planning, it also reduces the cost of the decision making, where you can say that various institutions have, if various institutions have the various authorities and they try to take the decision, it will create a chaos. And once the decision has come from the clear cut from the higher authority, then all has to follow that particular decision, and it will also reduce the cost. Then the quick implementation of decisions. Once the higher authority has given you the command, then the institution or that particular subordinate has to follow that particular norms, whatever is given by the central authority. Then it also improves the quality of the work because it is under the central authority and one leader. So due to that reason, he will try to keep an eye on that particular subordinate so that that work can be done very systematically. So this is how the quality of the work can or will be improved. Moving to the next slide. In that slide, we will cover the demerits of the centralized planning. So in the demerits of the centralized planning is bureaucratic leadership. This is the first demerit in bureaucratic leadership. Here, the government will try to follow, or it will make in bureaucratic leadership, subordinates has to follow the norms which are assigned or which has been mentioned by the central government. So this is a demerit because where the subordinates will not be able to make any changes or they can't take their own decisions if they feel this particular policy is not up to the mark. If they made certain changes in that policy, then it can be rectified, but they can't do that because of the bureaucratic leadership. Then remote control. This is the second demerit, where as we are changing the channels, as we are fed up from the one channel, then we just change the channel. The same way the central planning authority has the power. They can change any rules or they can give any some other work to that particular department, and this becomes a demerit because it overburdening that particular institution. Then due to that reason, this makes delay in that particular work. When the that institution or that particular an individual is overburdened, then that is mandatory, or you can say that it is there, the work will be delayed. Then this delayed in work will make lack of employees loyalty. He will not give his that good, or you can say that good quality of service to that particular goal which was set by the institution, because he was overburdened, and due to the delay of the work he will try to wind up that in that particular given time, so he will not give his best to that particular goal. So here are the references. Thank you.